Okay, everybody, it's time to get started. We've got 3 weeks left. Am I correct about that? This week, next week, and the next week. Okay, we're going to make it. We're definitely going to make it. And tonight, I don't want to speed through chapter 28. And so that's why I was trying to process how long will it take us to get here to the end. If we can get through chapter 29 tonight, we will. But I want to spend a little time in 28 because I just think it's a fascinating passage. We're going to deal with the witch of Endor. Yeah, and if you've been watching the House of David, already before David has even, hardly entered into Saul's house, Endor is being mentioned. And this is the first time in 1 Samuel that we're actually hearing of Endor. So it's fascinating to me how they layered it in from the very beginning. But just a really interesting passage. Let me pray for us, and then we'll get started. God, would you come and meet us in the text and reveal to us what you want us to hear? We're not just looking for head knowledge. We want this to penetrate our hearts too. So as we learn and wrestle with what's happening, we want to meet you and we want to hear your voice. So would you speak to us? We pray this in your holy name. Amen. Okay, chapter 28 of 1 Samuel, and I'll just read till I feel like we can stop. Okay, we may go the whole thing. All right, in those days, the Philistines gathered their forces to fight against Israel. Achish said to David, "You must understand that you and your men will accompany me in the army." David said, "Then you will see for yourself what your servant can do." Achish replied, "Very well, I will make you my bodyguard for life." Now Samuel was dead, and actually, let's stop there. Let's just look at the first two verses there. What is it you're seeing in these first two verses? Say that again. War again. Okay, they're on this kind of reminds me of in 2 Samuel during the Bathsheba story. It starts it by saying, in the spring when the kings went to war. It's like this is the cycle of it. Okay, Keith?
Well, David goes out on a limb and tells him he will see what he can do. And he's going to show him. He's like, I'll show you what I can do.
Okay, so he says, yeah, then, well, first, don't miss the first observation. Achish says, you're coming with me to war. And David's response is, then you can see what I'll be able to do. Okay, and my question as I'm reading this, knowing what's happened prior to this is this doublespeak? Is he saying something that's pleasing to the ear of Achish while also thinking, I don't really mean what I'm saying in the way he thinks I mean what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, is he playing this? Okay, what else?
David his bodyguard.
Achish makes David his bodyguard for life.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Pam?
I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
So, and I may be wrong about this, but it seemed to me that a lot of people have appeared to know that David had great things ahead of him in his life.
Okay.
And yet, Achish is making him a bodyguard for life.
What are you asking with that?
So, a bodyguard for life, when yet, why wouldn't Achish know that David had great things ahead of him?
Oh, okay. So let me just try to put these pieces together. What you're saying is, as we've been reading 1 Samuel, it really does seem there's been a buildup of people having great expectations for David, primarily wanting him or knowing that he will become king. Whether you know it or not, you'd still desire it. And yet you feel like the making of bodyguard for the king is a little bit of a lowly position. So why does Achish not know that he's going to be king? So let me add one more question on top of that, and that is, why does Achish have trust for him? I think that's really what the reader is being led here for. Yeah, Rod? Okay, that's interesting. He wants to keep him close. and your enemies closer. Okay, that's a good perspective. I don't think you're wrong necessarily about that. I mean, that very well could be it. I think that what the author seems to be doing here is introducing the idea that David's in a predicament. Okay, Achish is heading out. He has built trust in David, whether he should have or not. We know the backstory from chapter 27. David has been saying he's attacking the Israelites, but he's really been attacking all of the other nations that are around. And that's problematic for Achish because Achish believes that he's been attacking the Israelites. So he can easily assume that David is willing to come with him. But he does seem to give a level of command here. I am your king, in essence, because you're living in my country, and you know you're coming with me. I want us to take note of that, though, because in a little bit we're going to see that the tune changes. And Achish has to walk back some of this stuff. But whether or not he doesn't trust David, I think those are two different perspectives that could take us in two different directions. We don't need to go in either of those directions, but one is, does he not trust David at all? And so he's keeping him close. The other is, he has what we could consider an irresponsible trust of David. And he's even giving him access to his own life, Regardless of what that is, David is in a predicament here. And I actually do think he's having a little double speak here. Then you'll be able to see what I can do. What he might, we'll never get clarity on it, but what he might really intend is, I'm going to end up fighting the Philistines and turning my back on them, in essence. Bo? Well, I think we talked about that actually last week in the sense that he does have this sort of divine favor. And the only one, even Saul himself has been wrapped up in the divine favor of David. Even though he doesn't like it. He has both jealousy and a desire to trust David. And it's a battle that he's constantly fighting. And I do think that may be a part of what's happened here with Achish. He clearly is a charismatic figure, David is, that everyone loves to love. So he's in an interesting situation that we've been introduced to. Now let's keep moving. Now Samuel was dead, and all Israel had mourned for him and buried him in his own town of Ramah. Saul had expelled the mediums and spiritists from the land. Does anybody have different words for that? Wizard. Okay, Nate, what was yours? Ghosts and familiar spirits. That's interesting. And yours said wizards? Only wizards? No and? Mediums and wizards. I'm interested in the fact that it said ghosts. Can you expel a ghost? I don't know. Okay, that's not good. Okay, so we'll keep going. The Philistines assembled and came and set up camp at Shunem, while Saul gathered all the Israelites and set up camp at Gilboa. When Saul saw the Philistine army, he was afraid. Terror filled his heart. He inquired of the Lord, but the Lord did not answer him by dreams of Urim or prophets. Saul then said to his attendants, "Find me a woman who is a medium, so I may go and inquire of her." Let's stop there for a second. We're only going like a few verses at a time. Okay, what are you seeing here, Nate? Okay. We have a repetition, thank you, of the statement that Samuel has died and that everyone's mourning him and they bury him in his hometown of Ramah. Although it does say that, yeah. So there's mourning, there's communal mourning. He's buried in his own town of Ramah. Good observation. Mark? Oh, okay. All right. So you're wondering, is it necessary that we're told or reminded that Samuel has died? Is that related to what Saul's doing? Okay. Well, we'll get to that. That's a very good question. Yeah. Okay. What, Nellie?
Since the grapevine news goes so fast, he might have heard that David took the spear of Saul, and thus feels comfortable to get him as a bodyguard now.
Oh, you're talking about Achish.
Yes.
Oh, you're going back. Okay. Yeah. Nellie's just suggesting maybe she understands who David is from the fact that he snuck up on Saul and all that. Yeah. That's very interesting. It could very well be. Yeah.
First he gets rid of all these minions,
Yes.
and then when he can't fight
Okay, great observation. Clearly stated, Saul got rid of all of the mediums and spiritists. We'll talk for a second in a minute about what that would be. But now he's actually looking for one. Okay, and the question is why, Diane?
Well, the question is that he specifically asked for a woman who is
Okay, yes, so he specifically asked for a woman who is a spiritist or medium.
why?
Yeah, why? Okay. I don't have an answer for that, but yeah, it's a good question, yeah. Keith, what were you going to say?
Well, pretty much what Nellie said, because it's ironic that he decides he's going to get rid of all the wizards and all the ghosts, et cetera, but yet he's looking for one. So he obviously knows that there is one out there.
Yes, yeah, there is, yeah. Oh, I got what you mean. Well, mine says to search for one, find one, was the idea that I had. Well, yeah, he probably knows that one's in hiding at least, yeah. Tiffany? Okay, thank you. So first he inquires of the Lord. And what does he use to inquire of the Lord? Dreams? Okay, the Urim and the prophets. Okay, Lord, I'm asking for you to speak. I'm going to go to sleep and maybe you'll speak to me in my dream. Nope, didn't work. Okay, now I'm going to use the Urim. You've got the Urim and the Thummim. It's like, I don't know exactly what it is, but I've always understood it as some sort of like trinket or like a die that can be almost like a modern day, what do you call it? 8-ball. But what's it called? Magic 8-ball. Lord, what's going to happen here? All your dreams will come true, whatever it is, yeah. That's kind of my understanding of what it is. It's a device used to basically receive an answer. Yeah. I don't think it's quite like Ouija board. I think it's... Say that again? Could be like tarot cards, yeah. But it's a device that they clearly would have like used regularly, and then also there's no prophets are speaking either. A what? A crystal ball? Yeah. Honestly, it's a little less spirit-y focused, okay, from the standpoint of like magic and that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more actually, I'm going to roll the dice, and whatever the number is, that's what it is. It's almost like casting lots level thing. Nate? I think it's a little bit more like casting, but I think they would have been specific devices that were used, so it's not like you just make your own. They're almost like it's a holy tool, if you will, and it wasn't seen as a negative thing. It was seen as something that was able to be used, in essence. Okay, so, all right, so in this, the question becomes, why are they mentioning Samuel's death? And does this have anything to do with Saul? The answer is yes. Saul clearly is trying to talk to Samuel. He needs Samuel's perspective because what does he not have? God's perspective. So he does what he has used Samuel to do. Speak to me on behalf of the Lord. He says, Lord, what do you going to want to say? And none of the normal avenues for this happening are working. And why does he need to hear from the Lord? We're told from the very beginning. Everyone assembles, and Saul is afraid. Terror has filled his heart. And so what he wants from the Lord is some sort of assurance. Now, kings would have done this regularly. They actually pick up on this really well in the house of David. Kings would have done this regularly before they went into battle. I'm not going to go into battle if I'm going to lose this battle. And the one who's going to tell me whether I win or not is God. And in the Israelites' case, it's Yahweh, the Lord our God. So he asks, and the Lord does not respond. And so he's like, the last time I was able to hear from the Lord was Samuel. And so let's figure out a way to find him. And the way we find him is through mediums and spiritists. Or some may call them necromancers. People who can speak to the dead. Yeah. John, what were you going to say? Boom! So Saul is looking for God's guidance. He has looked for it before, but it's been a really long time, hasn't it, John? And his downfall was that he chose multiple times when God said, just wait. He didn't wait, and he wanted to have his own perspective. So now, in the midst of his terror and fear, he's looking for God, and it's almost like, we're done. I left you. So we'll come to that in a minute. Nate? I think he's actually looking for God. Now, the avenue through which he looks for God is I don't think he actually. I think if it was another God who had the answer, I get the sense that Saul would have asked him. You know what I mean? But I think that this is a place where, look, how many of us have struggled in prayer? We've not really ever prayed, but a crisis hits and we're like, I'm going to become a praying person. And you think if someone told you there was another way to get what the answer or to get whatever it is that you're seeking, you would go do it, and you'd probably say, yeah, probably, I'm so desperate at this point. I think that's where we are in this moment. Now, why has he kicked out the mediums and the spiritists? Because they're unholy. So this is sort of I think this was a previous thing. He did this very early in his kingship. He's trying to make everything holy. So they're all gone. He's really good at creating fear and making people leave. So they're all gone. And he says, well, this is my only chance. I've got to talk to Samuel. He's the only one that can basically do this because the other prophets aren't speaking. So he goes to find this necromancer, this person who's able to somehow connect her spirit with the spirit of a dead person. And they can actually begin to speak on their behalf. I have the picture of, like in the movies, someone's body being taken over by another spirit and in essence speaking on their behalf. Now, whether there was a voice change or eyes rolled in the back of their head, who knows? We're not given any description. But let me just make a couple of other observations. This seems to be a normal thing in some places. This is not out of the ordinary. These people were so prevalent that Saul felt like he needed to get rid of them. Let me just say that. So it brings up a big theological question for us. Because sometimes we think that stuff's fake. But it seems, well, we're going to hear, she actually does it. Okay, so just spoiler alert. Okay. But so it's real. So how does that work? It's not of God, and yet it works. So what's going on with that? And it really makes us have to deal with what we would consider spiritual warfare or some of these dark spiritual matters. And the reality is, it's possible. That doesn't mean it's holy. See, this is where it gets tricky. If it was holy, God would celebrate it. But he doesn't celebrate it. These are things, you're tapping into dark matters to be able to touch the places that are veiled. And God says, I don't want you doing that. That's not holy. And that's why Saul kicks them all out. But this is at the lowest point that he's at, one of the lowest points that he's at. I desperately need to know. I'm willing to do things that are dark and unholy to be able to get an answer. So that layer is really important to me just to recognize how deep this is. Any thoughts on that before we move on? Okay. Oh, yes, go ahead. Yes? Riddles. Okay, I'll have to go back and look at that, Pam. What is the what's the verse? Numbers 12:6. So these are mentioned multiple times throughout the Scripture, so you probably could find quite a few of them. Okay, let's pick back up there at the end of 7. So find a woman who is a medium, so I may go and inquire of her. Now, Diane, I'm just wondering, I don't know this for sure, but I'm just wondering if women were primarily the mediums. That's my thought, but I have no idea. Okay, there is one in Endor, they said. So Saul disguised himself, putting on other clothes, and at night he and 2 men went to the woman. Consult a spirit for me, he said, and bring up for me the one I name. But the woman said to him, surely you know what Saul has done. He has cut off the mediums and spiritists from the land. Why have you set a trap for my life to bring about my death? Saul swore to her by the Lord, as surely as the Lord lives, you will not be punished for this. Then the woman asked, whom shall I bring up for you? Bring up Samuel, he said. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul, why have you deceived me? You are Saul. The king said to her, don't be afraid. What do you see? The woman said, I see a spirit coming up out of the ground. Mine says it could be plural there. What does he look like? He asked. An old man wearing a robe is coming up, she said. Then Saul knew it was Samuel, and he bowed down and prostrated himself with his face to the ground. Samuel said to Saul, why have you disturbed me by bringing me up? I am in great distress, Saul said. The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has turned away from me. He no longer answers me either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called on you to tell me what to do. Samuel said, why do you consult me now that the Lord has turned away from you and become your enemy? The Lord has done what he predicted through me. The Lord has torn the kingdom out of your hands and given it to one of your neighbors, to David, because you did not obey the Lord or carry out his fierce wrath against the Amalekites. The Lord has done this to you today. The Lord will hand over both Israel and you to the Philistines. And tomorrow, look at that word, tomorrow, you and your sons will be with me. The Lord will also hand over the army of Israel to the Philistines. Immediately, Saul fell full length on the ground, filled with fear because of Samuel's words. His strength was gone, for he had eaten nothing all that day and night. When the woman came to Saul and saw that he was greatly shaken, she said, look, your maidservant has obeyed you. I took my life in my hands and did what you told me to do. Now please, listen to your servant and let me give you some food so you may eat and have strength to go on your way. He refused and said, I will not eat. But his men joined the woman in urging him, and he listened to them. He got up from the ground and sat on the couch. The woman had a fattened calf at the house, which she butchered at once. She took some flour, kneaded it, and baked bread without yeast. Then she set it before Saul and his men, and they ate. That same night, they got up and left. Okay, what is it that you're seeing here?
It takes a while to slaughter and butcher.
Okay. Oh, you're not making an observation. You're giving an opinion about this. The timeline doesn't line up. Takes a long time to butcher a cow. For you, maybe not for a witch of Endor. Oh, so you're just interacting with how odd it is that he's interacting with Samuel who's dead. Yeah, it does feel a little weird. It feels very movie-ish. Yeah. David?
The medium is initially quite remembering that Saul has banished all these people, so she knows that this
So,
is a problem.
yeah, her initial reaction shows that she understands that people like her should not be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And, yeah, okay. What else? Mark? Ah. Okay, so here's what I would probably suggest the observation should be there. It's not clear whether he's speaking through the woman or how they're interacting, but there certainly is a distinction between the woman and Saul's spirit. This is clearly, Samuel's spirit. This is clearly Samuel. Yeah. For me, one of the observations is how quickly her interaction, once she sees Samuel, she automatically knows that that's Saul. And one of the funny things Mary Catherine and I have been laughing about in the house of David is like when the queen shows up, everybody goes, "Oh, my queen," and they bend down as if they would know what her face looks like, as if they were regularly that close to her. You know, it's like there's no way they understand who she is. Maybe by her clothing or something like that, which I think is, of course, he puts on different clothing, and that's how he hides. Okay, what else are you guys noticing, Lorraine? Oh, yeah. Yeah, he brings up the fact that he's being disturbed. Why have you brought me up here? What does he say? Why have you disturbed me? Yeah. Yeah, he's frustrated. He's like, ugh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a clear interpretation, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah, you make that, yeah. His response back is, okay, remember this was said before. Yeah. He's calling Saul back to remembering. This was no secret. The Lord took his spirit from you. Yeah. Bo?
I noticed that Saul and his men ate of the calf and the bread that she made, which probably was not sacrificed to Yahweh. Probably, right?
Okay, so you're wondering if this is a demonized cow? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they shouldn't have been in the house. Yeah. Nothing good happens after 10 o'clock. Yeah, don't even get there. Yeah. Yeah. Don't miss this one observation, too, that maybe Nellie's about to make, and then I'll come back to it.
She sees a person coming out of the earth.
Yes.
So Samuel was in heaven.
Oh, okay. So why is Samuel coming out of the earth? Interesting. We'll get to that here. That's a good question. If I somehow move on without getting to that, say, wait a second, the earth thing. Okay. Don't miss this observation, though. Samuel says to him, remember, the Lord has left you. But look at the next thing he says. He has given your kingdom, he's torn it from you, and he's given it to your neighbor, to David. Think back. Has Saul ever been told clearly that David would be the next king? No. First time. I wish we got a reaction from Saul. We get no reaction from him about that particular point, but I think it's so fascinating. Okay, and then while I was reading, I made the observation, tomorrow this is going to happen. I mean, put yourself in that place where you're very healthy, you're ready to go to battle, you're scared, and someone says, tomorrow you're going to die. What would you be thinking? How would you be feeling? Would you change anything about tomorrow? Or today, Nate? Yeah, I think you're exactly right, yes. I think that's a great, his reaction is very in line with everything he just experienced. Yeah. Nancy? Go for it. I couldn't quite hear exactly what you're saying. Oh, okay. Oh, and what is he referring to? Okay, so let's go back in our memory of the text and think through, why did God take away Saul's? Why did God take away his spirit from Saul? Do you remember? We had two instances that sort of compounded to make this happen. The first was he jumped the gun on the sacrifices. So we're not going to go into battle until sacrifice happens. Samuel says, well, wait for me. I'll be there in 7 days. On the seventh day, he makes the sacrifice. And then remember, it was like a movie. Saul's making the sacrifice and Samuel walks up. What's happening here, Well, you didn't come. And there was this whole interaction. Okay, that wasn't the moment he takes the spirit away. He's disappointed. The next thing that happens is he tells Saul, when you go, I'm going to deliver the Amalekites into your hand, but you need to kill everything, including the livestock. And when Samuel rolls in, he says, what is the bleating of sheep I hear in my ears? The lowing of cattle. Where did these things come from? And they're like, oh, well, we took them because they were good, And he says, that's not what the instruction was. And that's the moment where all of this stuff really changes course for Saul. Yeah, that's in the house of David, isn't that the opening episode or whatever, it gets a little dark, actually. That's what he's referring to. And so in essence, what's happening here is Saul's desperate. He goes to the witch of Endor, or this medium or spiritist. She does exactly what she's not supposed to be doing, this dark magic stuff. And he actually gets to talk to Samuel. Now, Samuel comes from the ground, I think primarily because the Jewish Hebrew understanding of death was not heaven. That's not they talk about Sheol. And you'll see that term, some interpretations will use the word Sheol primarily in the Psalms. In Job, it's mentioned a number of times. The idea is that when you die, you don't really go to heaven or hell, you just stop being. And you go into Sheol. It's so I don't, David's kind of like, don't leave me, don't send me to Sheol, I have more life to live. And the Hebrew understanding, the Jewish understanding begins to shift and change in what we would call the intertestamental period, when the Greeks have taken over the land and the Jews are sort of not only in the land of Israel, but they're in the diaspora, they're sent out all throughout the earth. And you begin to have the development of the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Essenes. And they all have different perspectives on what death is like and what life after death is like. The Sadducees' perspective is no resurrection. You die, you're gone. The Pharisees, you resurrect. And Jesus ends up playing them off of one another at different moments. So coming up from the ground is the idea that you're coming up out of Sheol. We have a friend actually who wrote his entire PhD on Hebrew understanding of heaven and hell and how that translates into the New Testament. Yeah. Okay. So Samuel comes up. He's a little disturbed. Why did you disturb me? You woke me up, in essence. And he interacts with Saul, and Saul's like, I desperately need you. And Samuel says, why are you even asking this question? You know that God took you from me. Now, the interesting thing is he doesn't go, quit bothering me, and I'm not going to give you an answer. What does he do? He actually answers. And he tells him, this is what's going to happen. You want to know what's going to happen? Here's what's going to happen. You're going to die. You and your sons. What does that mean? As we've been talking last Sunday, we're going to talk about it again this Sunday, the patriarchal lineage. Gone. Tomorrow. And also, your army will be handed over to the Philistines. That's a lot of information that's just devastating for Saul. And he's already been devastated. I wrote in my Bible, here's this little note, he is high on anxiety there in verse 20. His strength was gone, for he had eaten nothing all that day and night. He's so desperate, he's so anxious, he's so full of fear. And this is not the news he wanted. And so it drives him even further into this place of terror. He lays there on the ground, doesn't know what to do. Now, this is only my interpretation. I get the sense that she's like, I need you out of my house. You are bringing chaos into my life. I need you out of here. She seems to be ready to get him on. Her begging for him to eat really seems to be like, I need you to have the strength to be able to get out of here. And his men, of course, are concerned about him. He's on the ground. This is the point where they're legitimately concerned about him. She convinces him, she feeds him, they take everything they need, and they head off. And at this point, we'll have to see if the prophecy plays out or not next week. But the same night they get up and they leave. Yeah. What kind of thoughts do you have? Maybe you have some further questions. What's going on in your brains with this? Rod? He knew right away what? Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's right. So again, I think this is a trend we've watched with Saul from the very beginning. Instead of inquiring of the Lord, well, he's trying to inquire of the Lord first. He's already moved his army out, but he's trying to inquire of the Lord. But what the trend we've seen with Saul is he uses God as a lucky coin, doesn't he? He seems to. He did this at the very beginning when he takes the ephod and tries to understand what's going on. He seems to be using the things of God really more as like a vending machine. Give me what I need and want, instead of, you're the shepherd, I'm the flock, we're the flock, we're following you. He's not interested in that. Keith?
Well, the author kind of makes it a little bit clear that whatever she says to him, he buys it 100%. It's almost like whatever she said is right, and that's what's going to happen. He doesn't stop and think, what if she's not telling me?
Okay, so you're wondering if there is room for him. He takes it lock, stock, and barrel. Okay, and why would that be? Is there room for her to have been lying around? Here's where I think the piece is, and why the author tells us this. The fact that she knows he is Saul, once Samuel shows up, I think is the sort of moment where he knows, oh, she's clearly talking to Samuel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she's just talking. He doesn't really, unless he hears it, the author doesn't make that clear. He's based everything on what she says.
Or what Samuel said. Again, we don't know how this is. Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, somebody had a hand up over here. No? Okay, cancel that. Jerry?
Well, I kind of backing up a little bit in chapter 22. Saul destroyed all but one prophet.
Yes.
And God went with David and the ephod down and was giving David interpretation from God to the ephod and the prophet. Saul lost everything when Samuel stepped away.
Absolutely.
In his
That's exactly right. He's trying to fire a gun with no ammunition. And so now he's desperately looking for the ammunition. Yeah. He lost everything when Samuel, not only when he died, he lost everything when God left him. And it's almost like what we're watching is the author is showing us he just continues to learn more and more what that actually means for him. But he's hit the end of the line. Now, this is the end of the road. If you're looking ahead, you can see we're almost done. So you can see that the book's almost over, and probably why the division was made between 1st and 2nd Samuel was because it's going to end with the end of Saul. Samuel, again, though, is clearly a book more about David than it is about Saul. David really is the main character here. But yeah, it's a big moment, and he's just been told that it's going to be over. I do think it's interesting that they're going to still go into battle. I mean, do you swallow your pride? Do you just choose to not believe? Do you just think maybe I can muster my way through it? Yeah. Any other thoughts before we close up? I'm just interested in this passage. I think it's very unique. I think that it gives us the understanding that there is a dark spiritual realm. I think that it also is just fascinating because it shows the total desperation of Saul. And also, I wonder if Star Wars stole from this when they used the word Endor for a planet. I don't know, Mark? Oh, what a great observation there. Could you guys hear Mark? Samuel's first prophecy, which was kind of accidental, was the death of Eli's sons and the taking away of the authority of Eli. And his final prophecy, which is in his death, is about the death of Saul and his sons. Bookends. That gets the gold star for the day. What a wonderful observation, yeah. You're right on cue there. And yeah, hence the name of the book, Samuel. No, I think absolutely that's a great observation. Well, let's end with that. How about we say a prayer, and then we've got some fish, and there was some cake of some sort being made tonight. So, okay. Lord, thank you for the beauty and the poetry of your word, and for the reminder to us of our own humanness. We do not want to be like Saul. We want to be like your servant Samuel and your servant David. We want to live a life of holiness. We want to trust you. We want to make decisions because you've called us to, not because we don't want to seek you because we need you to do what we are asking you to do. So work in our hearts in that way, Lord. And we give all of this to you in your great name. Amen.